Hi and welcome to Fran's Crafts. I've just joined Stampin' Up as an independent demonstrator, so I'm mainly going to be doing online demos. I am available for workshops locally to me, but I'm mainly going to be doing tutorials for you to show you different techniques and different things to make really. So to start with, I'm going to show you how to make a clock using this fabulous stamp that Stampin' Up do. It's a swallowtail butterfly. The detail on it is brilliant. It's a good size image and I use it regularly for clocks. It's one of my favourite stamp sets, so I thought I'd share with you today how I make my clocks. Just pop that to one side. So first up, and you must bear with me if there's any pauses, this is my first YouTube video, so I hope it goes well and you enjoy it. So here we go. First I take an MDF base. This is a 10-inch clock. They do come in all sorts of sizes, 8-inch, 12-inch, square, different patterns, but for today I'm using a 10-inch. So what I do is I take a piece of a 12 by 12 Whisper white card. I tend to, especially when I'm using the butterfly with flowers, I tend to do a rough copy so that I can get the design exactly how I want it before I start stamping properly. So first up, if you draw around the outside of the base and also remembering the centre, I don't cut the centre out just yet, I leave it in and it protects your work surface underneath while you're stamping. So I take the butterfly stamp and tip-top taut. Generally when you're stamping you take the stamp to the ink, but as this is a big image it's best to do it the ink to the stamp and then you can see that you've inked it all up correctly. So I just stamp on to the middle of the card, press down firmly, and there you have a beautiful butterfly image. Okay, next I'm going to stamp some flowers behind the butterfly, and again from the main catalogue I'm using the Flower Shop, and this is quite a versatile flower, and it also comes with a matching punch, so saves all the fiddle little cutting out. So I'm going to use from the Subtles collection Pink Pirouette and the Blushing Bride, and what I've done in advance is I've stamped onto printer paper my butterfly. Sorry, I'm just missing a little bit off the end there, and I then use that as a mask so that I'm able to stamp my flowers on without getting them onto the butterfly pattern, and then it looks like that the butterfly is sitting on the flowers. So I will take my first stamp, ink it up, and then just stamp it around the butterfly. There's no set rules on where to stamp, you just choose whatever design you prefer and colours. Okay, there you can see the flowers are sitting behind the butterfly, so it looks like it's in the patch of flowers. So I'm just going to stamp the same on the other side. Again, just wherever you want them to be. Oops. And then I'm going to choose a different stamp and use the Pink Pirouette. Again, for this stamp I've created a mask, so if you wanted to pop it on top of a flower it means you can stamp over and you've got flowers sitting behind a flower like that. Just pop some of these round. I mean, you can stamp as much or as little as you like really, it's entirely your own preference. Just one more. Over the week I shall be bringing you some different techniques of how to use the butterfly stamp, from cards, scrapbook pages. It's very versatile, and when you're making cards with it you don't really need to use the whole stamp, you could just have part of it, but that'll be my tutorial for tomorrow, so I hope you can join me tomorrow. And by the end of the week I hopefully have shown you 5 projects using the butterfly stamp. Okay, next up, using the stamp set Botanicals for You, which comes from a sale-a-bration catalogue, and this is a brilliant little catalogue that runs to the end of March. If you spend £45 with Stamping Up, you get to choose free papers or stamps, whichever you choose. That's the one that I have here. So I'm going to take the little leaf stamp and the flower and Stamp Extra on to give a little bit more detail onto the card in the flowers. Just before I do that, I also give you a bit of a tip. If you want to put colour onto the butterfly, it doesn't have to be much, it can be just a little bit. Instead of, when you use your water pen, of taking it straight to the ink pad, if you take the pad and press down just in the centre, and when you open it up you then have your own little palette. So just take your water pen and just pop it where you'd like on the stamp. Like I say, you can do as much colour or as little colour as you want. I'm just going to pick out this little bit for now, just to show you. And it's a good way of getting colour into your picture without it being too much. Right, now I'm just going to take the stamp and take the mint macaroon ink pad, and I'm just going to stamp some little leaves as if they're coming out from behind the flowers. Just randomly, it doesn't have to be precise. You can just have them coming from wherever you choose. Then I'm just going to take a little flower and use the crumb cake ink and stamp into the centre of the flower. I also want to stamp in between where the numbers are going to go, and then it just draws your eye a little bit to the numbers, which I've cut out in advance in mint macaroon card. Stamping Up do a fantastic stamp set they've got in the spring summer catalogue. It's called Number of Years, and you get all these stamps, and then you get the matching die set to go with it. So it's most useful for things like this, or making cards with numbers. Right, I'm going to take my crumb cake, and I'm just going to stamp little flowers into the centre. Just gives it a little bit more detail. I mean, should you wish, you can stamp the flowers all the way up to the edge of the circle. When I'm doing this, I prefer to just sort of keep to the middle and then leave the outside a little bit bare. Okay, take my templates. As you can see, it's a stencil that I have. The dots correspond where the numbers go, so I'm just going to line that up with the hole in the middle, and then just stamp round the edge in between where the numbers will go, just so it draws your eye to the edge of the card. I mean, this is not something you is necessarily needed to do, it's just something that I've chosen to do for this design. So there's my finished design. I would then cut the pattern out. First though, it's best to cut the centre out of with a knife. If you just put the knife and then move your card rather than the knife, because then it'll stop you ripping the card, and then you just cut round the outside and then you glue it to your base using a wet glue. It needs to be sticky enough to stick, but not too wet that it will then warp the card. So it's just sometimes a little bit of trial and error, but here's one I've done earlier, just so it's had time to dry, and I've also added the numbers on. Sometimes you get a bit of an overlap, so you just need to take a piece of sandpaper and sand around the edges. So there's my finished clock, and just before I add the mechanism, I usually spray it with varnish spray, which is better than painting varnish on, because sometimes that will make the colours run, and even if you're using coloured card, that can run and then it spoils your clock. So I recommend a spray varnish. So now we're ready for the mechanism. So take the mechanism, you've got a rubber washer there, so you just pop that underneath the clock and take the washer and the nut and pop them on. Whoops. When you're tightening the nut up, do it fairly tight but not too tight, because it will stop the mechanism from working if you have it super tight. So excuse me a minute while I tighten that up, and then you just need to make sure on the back of the clock that the hanger is lined up with the number 12, and then you just take your hands, which often have a little bit of plastic on. I've taken them off already on this, but you just need to peel that off first, and then you pop this on. When you're popping your hands on, you just need to gently press onto the spindle just in this area, because if you press on here, you'll make your hands bend. The same with the top one, and then you just take your second hand and pop into the centre. There's a little hole it fits into, and there's your clock ready to go. You just have to put a battery in the back and you're all set. So I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial today, and I hope you can pop back for the rest of the week to see what else I make with this butterfly stamp. So it is a really versatile stamp and lots of detail. So hopefully I can give you a few ideas. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.